And Julie, you'll need to actually start your video. There we go. Hi, so this is Julie Francis. My name, by the way, is Cynthia Allen. This is the second session of the Feldenkrais Awareness Summit. And Julie lives in Glen Ellen, Illinois. She has 25 years experience in helping people with mindfulness and awareness and movement. She is a Feldenkrais practitioner and an assistant trainer in the Feldenkrais method. She has a particular interest in helping issues around anxiety and calm. She has a beautiful book, which maybe she can already hold up for us because I love this book and I sold all of mine right away, called Calm Your Nerves. And it's just gorgeous just to even look at, isn't it? Yeah.
Some pictures, there you go.
Yeah, she's got a way with images. She has a background in architectural type things, so she tends to love beauty, and also has a very infectious laugh, and that's what I remember about meeting her 18 years ago in the Feldenkrais training. It was so wonderful. Okay, so Julie, why don't we just dive right in and get us started with what really drew you into working with anxiety and stress. Anxiety and stress.
Oh gosh, years and years ago, I was contacted by a psychologist who was looking for a Feldenkrais practitioner because she was working with people with dissociative disorders. And she was really taking to heart what Bessel van der Kolk says about working with trauma. And that is to feel and know your body safely is an essential ingredient of healing. So that's to feel and know your body safely is an essential ingredient of healing. And we worked together. We saw clients mutually for many years until she got married and moved out of state. And in the process, I really got interested not only in trauma, but in just ordinary everyday anxiety. I was finding my clients coming in. I know I've had my own experience with it because of life circumstances and the amount of stress that I'm a parent of a disabled child, so I have a lot of stress. And I said, all right, I have this wonderful method, and if I'm going to apply it on a physical basis, how can I use the principles and the movements of the Feldenkrais method to support people in dealing with stress and anxiety? So one of the things that I think I found most helpful for myself, and then I try to help my clients know, is that stress and anxiety are normal. We tend not to like them, but that doesn't mean that they're an aberration or that it's a bad thing. My ultimate favorite definition of stress, and we'll talk about others, but my favorite is the one by Kelly McGonigal. And she has this amazing book called The Upside of Stress. And that is, stress is what arises when something you care about is at stake. It's as simple as that. It's what comes up. And it's really preparing us to take action. So you think of it as a continuation of that fight, flight, freeze. It's something that we need in order to actually get through our daily lives. It isn't a bad thing. What happens, though, is we can get stuck in it, or we can have just unmitigating circumstances and it becomes a little overwhelming. So it's learning to deal with that. And what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about stress and anxiety, but also spend most of our time giving you some little pointers. I often do presentations based on the Calm Your Nerves, giving people not only longer awareness through movement lessons, but also just quick tips that you can do in the moment to help you if you're, say, going to have a test, or you've got to go and have that conversation with your boss or your spouse, or whatever, your child's teacher, whatever's going on in your life, to just help you deal with it and kind of put it in perspective.
That's great. I'm looking forward to that, because you might have guessed that putting on this event has been a little bit stressful for me.
No kidding. I give you great kudos because I couldn't have done it.
So we had all kinds of technical challenges yesterday that were totally unexpected. And I'm hoping that my mic is no longer cutting in and out, that it was just the placement of it. So thank you for those of you who said something, and hopefully that my changing where it was located helped. So anyway, I agree. We need like these simple, easy ways to interrupt the pattern. Otherwise, it's just so easy for me to end up thinking that I really am truly in a life-threatening situation which is this is not to say that this is not a difficult thing, but mostly what I'm about to have is maybe disappoint people in a major way or not. That's not life-threatening, Right. So it's interesting how difficult it is to parse that and keep that clear in one's mind.
Right. So I think, yes. And one of the things, I saw a question pop up, and they're kind of reading my mind. So essentially, how do you differentiate between stress and anxiety? Because they are two different creatures. And there's a lot of definitions out there. As I said, I like the definition of stress being what comes up when something you care about is at stake. But stress is also, it's a biological state that's designed to help you learn from experience. It's also there to help you connect and to rise to a challenge. So one of the simplest things you can do when you're feeling stressed is to reframe it. So for instance, today going, all right, how many hundreds of people are going to see this, and I have to be on camera, and that can be a little stressful as well. And and rather than thinking of it as, oh my gosh, all these people are going to see me, what if, to just simply say, I'm excited. Because how we experience excitation is similar to how we experience stress and anxiety. However, by simply changing your mindset, it actually changes the hormones that are being, put out in your body. So just shifting that thinking, how you perceive it, changes it, and it takes some of the edge off. So that's really the simplest thing. But there are a lot of different definitions of stress, and I just want to go over a couple of them. Stress is generally the result of external pressure. So we have something happening in our lives that is imminent, that is real, and there are stressors, and we respond to that. Anxiety is more internal. It involves worry and fear. Not that we can't be worried about something that's imminent. If you think you're going to be fired and a riff is coming at work and you're showing up from work, you're going to be a little worried about it, because if you lose your job, you might not be able to pay your mortgage next month. What's going to happen? That's a reasonable fear. Anxiety is when you kind of take that and you start projecting. Okay, so there's a little bit of difference there. There's a lot of overlap. Fritz Perls, who's one of the Gestalt granddaddies, or founder of Gestalt, says that anxiety is excitement without breathing. So we get ourselves excited, agitated, but we're not breathing, which gives us a clue to what we can do to actually help ourselves. Stress is a reaction to a problem. And anxiety is the reaction to stress. So that's the definition that's given by the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. That's how they define it. Stress is what we experience when dealing with the immediate. So things like a test, you have an illness of a spouse, even yourself, you've been diagnosed with something, you're having financial issues, and anxiety is worrying about the future or worrying about things that aren't specific. So fear of the future, fear of the non-specific. In the United Kingdom, the National Health Service defines stress as feeling of being under too much mental or emotional pressure. So you've got things that are kind of closing in on you. And anxiety is a feeling of unease, worry, or fear. So you can see that there's overlaps. Anxiety can arise as the result of stress. The National Institutes of Health, they define stress as stress is the result of an existing stress causing factor, while anxiety is stress that continues after the stressor is gone. So once something has been resolved, if your nervous system hasn't just said, all right, I can reset myself, you can get into this habitual pattern of worry and what we call anxiety. The symptoms of the two are very similar, and we all experience it slightly differently. So no two people are going to have exactly the same sense that says, this is anxiety to me. But there are a lot of symptoms that are very much in common in terms of both stress and anxiety. And those include headaches, backaches, muscle tension, insomnia, digestive issues. The list goes on, irritability, lack of focus, memory issues. I mean, there's a whole slew of things that you can put down to stress and to anxiety. And I think the key difference, David Spiegel, who's the associate chair of psychiatry at Stanford, says that the key difference between stress and anxiety is the sense of helplessness. And he says by rolling up your sleeves and tackling that stress, you can feel less helpless. And so how do we do that? We want to empower ourselves, and we can do that by using our bodies. So what do we do? There are several approaches to dealing with stress and anxiety. One is distraction. We take our mental thoughts and we shift them to something else. Many people here are meditators. You spend time meditating depending on your meditative tradition. It may involve shifting your focus or identifying that you're having a thought. There's many different ways of meditating, but you want to distract. Another is relaxation. Muscle patterns typically are associated with those feelings of stress and anxiety. And by shifting those muscle patterns, relaxing more shifts the mental process as well. And increasing your heart rate, get out, exercise. There's tons and tons of documented information on how increasing your heart rate can help reduce the impact of stress and to reduce anxiety. And then, of course, there is, if we want to focus from a purely Feldenkrais perspective, which is what this is about, so we would like to spend some time on that, is to shift the habitual muscle patterns. And that works differently for different people. And the approach that you would take would be dependent on your personality. If you're somebody that's a real type A, maybe while meditation may be helpful, it might not be your initial go-to. Maybe going to the gym and punching a bag might be a little more effective, or jogging in place, whatever it takes. If you're a calmer person, generally, meditation might be your go-to, or relaxation exercises might be your go-to. And that's something that you can try different things and see what works for you. So from a Feldenkrais perspective, we have a number of tools. One is body awareness. We spend time almost in every lesson, spending time attending to ourselves. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And movement, we begin to introduce movement. And again, we attend to those movements. And in the process, we begin to experiment. We try different things so that the habitual patterns begin to shift. For those of you who are Feldenkrais practitioners on the call, one of the lessons that is my go-to, and obviously we don't have time here to go through an entire lesson and get general information, but one of my go-tos is in the book Awareness Through Movement, and that is balancing flexors and extensors. Because what happens typically in stressful situations, in a fight or flight feeling, even though it isn't life-threatening, we still have that physiological response. We tend to contract the flexors. And that's so that we can then let those very powerful extensors burst forward to either help us run away or fight. And in nature, it's also interesting to know that in nature, almost always running away comes before fighting. So it's good to remember, you don't always have to fight. Sometimes it's okay to walk away, and that's natural. That's natural.
That's great. Can I interrupt for just a moment?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I just want to remind everybody we're listening to Julie Francis, author of Calm Your Nerves, and she's going to be helping us and already is helping us today with anxiety, worry, stress. And for those of you who are using the Q&A, even if Spanish is your normal language or some language other than English is your normal language, if you can even type in some version of broken English, it will be helpful. We can't actually use a translator in this function. And I don't speak Italian. And Arlene speaks a tiny bit of Spanish, but I'm not sure we'll get the gist of the messages that have already been sent to us in Italian and English. Italian and Spanish. Also, when you send us a question via Q&A, that is not going to the rest of the group. If you want to talk to the rest of the group, you do that in chat, please. And at the end, there will be an opportunity to ask Julie questions. That's where you're going to send your questions to us in Q&A. And then we will ask you to go live. We will want to see your face and hear your voice. So please know that if you have a question for Julie and we select that, we're going to be making you live. We'll give you just a little bit of moment's notice. And your image will be part of our recording forever and ever to millions of people, I'm sure. Millions. So be ready for that.
Not too much stress there.
No stress, no stress.
No stress, no stress.
No stress, but you are releasing your rights to your image for us to use.
There you go. There you go.
So carry on, Julie.
Carry on. Well, so enough about the background. I can talk for days, and I would really prefer to spend some time giving you some things that you can do. So one of the simplest is just to use physical awareness. So if you're sitting, if you're standing, not if you're driving, so please not if you're driving, but if you're in a place, you might even be lying on your couch or a lounge chair if you're by the pool somewhere, not here, but somewhere. Take a moment to just notice how you're being supported. So if you're sitting, feel your sit bones. Bring your awareness to the physical contact you have with the surface that is supporting you. If you're standing, notice how your feet contact the floor. And you can do it with eyes open or eyes closed. And then notice your breathing. Bring your attention to your breathing. And now smile. Put a smile on your face and notice what happens. Does your breathing change? And let that go. So a very simple thing. Let it all go. And notice what happened. Did you feel a difference? We can also use the breath. If we go with Fritz Perls' definition of anxiety being excitement without the breathing, if we start to feel that muscle tension, if we start to feel that worry coming up, we can shift with breathing. There are many, many lessons, Feldenkrais lessons, and in fact, I'm going to be doing an online course that's 8 weeks long, starting in June, just breathing through anxiety. So we'll do long lessons. We don't obviously have the time for that. So something that's very simple is to bring your shoulders up toward your ears. And you're going to hold your shoulders by your ears. And then imagine you're breathing through a straw and exhale completely. So you push out all the air. And then when you get to where you feel like you can't possibly push out any more air, just hold the exhalation. Hold your breath. You let your shoulders down and then notice what happens. So I'll do it with you so you can see what it's like. So the shoulders come up and then I'll exhale through a straw. And when I get to the bottom, I don't take a breath. I just hold it and let my shoulders drop and see what happens. So it's so what we're looking for is that spontaneous breath. What happens is a lot of people will cheat. It's very easy to go, I don't like to be without air. So it's very easy to kind of take these quick little breaths in between. And then what ends up happening at the end is the shoulders come down and you take a breath as opposed to allowing a breath. So it's a little bit to differentiate it, but to be aware of allowing yourself to completely exhale and really push out the air, and then hold that exhalation as the shoulders come down, and then just let go because your body wants to breathe. It knows what to do if you don't get in your own way. And by doing this simple movement, it starts to reset that musculature. It gives your shoulders something to do. A lot of times when we're anxious or tense, what do? We tend to raise the shoulders anyway. So we're doing exactly what the body is asking us to do and is actually doing independently. And we start to do it. We say, you want to do that? Let's do it. It's like dealing with a 3-year-old, right? You give them what they want, they shut up. So we're doing the same thing with our bodies. Another way to use the breath is to hum. And there's a couple of wonderful things. The vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, is, I would say, the nerve that is associated with stress and anxiety and the flight and fight response. And it is very close to the surface at the roof of the mouth. And when we set up a vibrational pattern, we're stimulating that vagus nerve, which helps to stimulate the parasympathetic, the calming part of the nervous system. So we can simply hum. So I invite you just to take a moment and you can hum. So it can be as simple as Very good. Or you can hum a tune. And one of the tunes, what is that song? You'll have to excuse me because I am not a singer, and I'm a little rocky in terms of holding a tune. So I apologize if I offend anybody's sensibilities of musical prowess, but you get what you get. It's still fun. I enjoy singing. It just isn't for public consumption generally. But one of the songs that I really like is from My Fair Lady. You know, I have often walked down the street before, because it goes up and down, and it requires you to use your diaphragm in a different way. So, so you can go on like that. You probably, you know, whatever you like, you know, find your own tune. But I would say something that has a nice melody that varies is, in my opinion, a little more effective. But certainly there's nothing wrong with just a straight singing. You know, if you're someone who likes to sing in the shower, go for it. I said, somebody just said, with your mouth closed? Humming, I don't know how to hum with my mouth open. I've never tried.
I think I can maybe do it. I think I could do it, yeah. I like it with my lips closed, but I think I can make it work. It's hard to get your tongue not
I don't
to
think it's humming then. It's
it's not. The tongue really wants to work.
So if it works for you, go for it. So, you know, just as an aside, you know, if things get really, really uncomfortable, and even to the point of having a panic attack, I mean, if things get really progressive and you find yourself, if you can keep your wits about you, if you start to really feel anxious, find a firm surface and lie on your stomach. And the contact between your rib cage and the floor will remind you to start to breathe. Your body wants to breathe, and it's just that little bit of input that helps you to start to take a deeper breath, and it can be very, very helpful. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to take away all of the sensations that you're having. None of these things necessarily will. It'll dampen it down, make it so that it's more bearable. Okay. So that last one about bringing that physical sensation in brings us to the next step, and that is to use the sense of touch. And touch can be incredibly powerful in terms of helping yourself or helping someone that you love or care about help to deal with anxiety. A full body hug, there's nothing like it. If you have a friend that's in distress, and I don't mean just those little social hugs, you know, the kiss on side of cheek, just touching gently, but a real bear hug where you let your body fully melt into the other person can be enormously helpful in terms of regulating the nervous system. One of the roles of stress is to help us bond, to help us to connect. Babies are actually born with a more, aroused sympathetic system. They cry, they want to be held, right? And we hold them, we respond. It helps to calm them down, and it teaches them to help to regulate their systems. Same with someone else. We're social creatures. We don't live in isolation. So doing that type of thing is extremely helpful. Don't be afraid to ask for a hug. If you have someone that you know that's a good hugger and you're feeling stressed, ask for a hug. if you don't have somebody around, there's a couple things you can do. Again, the vagus nerve is very close to the surface around the ears. So holding your earlobe and come behind, there's that little indentation behind the ear. You can hold there and then hold the earlobe. And you don't have to squeeze. Just hold really gently and imagine, if you close your eyes and just imagine the tips of your fingers coming together in the middle of your earlobe so that the earlobe itself doesn't even exist. And if that is a difficult thing for you to do,
I really like this one.
it's very nice.
I really like this one. Okay, you all just carry on. I'll be over here doing this.
Yeah. If you have a difficulty getting that sense of, without squeezing, without pushing, without any pressure, letting the fingertips come to touch each other, then you can feel free to just gently rub the earlobe. If any of you have cats and dogs, pets, dogs love this. I mean, I remember my dog, I could play with his ears all day. It was just made him very happy. And a lot of animals like that sensation. So you can use it with your pets as well if they're getting a little anxious. What I find for dogs is to take their ears and fold them over, and you can actually go into the ear canal and just hold and give a little bit of rub. You can do the same for yourself too. Put a couple fingers in your ear canal and just hold. It's very gentle. Another place is right in the corner. You know, if you wear glasses and you take them off and you know you're going like this, you're rubbing. Well, instead of rubbing, if you kind of come into that little crease, right, that little divot right at the side of the nose, and you do the same type of thing where you're asking your fingers without any pressure, you're just resting your fingertips there. And just gently imagine that your fingertips are going up and underneath your eyebrows. And then you can just sit there. And if you are adept at imaginary exercises, you could imagine, just imagine, that you are very slowly painting the underside or even right up above on the backside of your brow line, to very slowly taking paintbrush and stroking, going a little further each time, working your way around the orbit of your eye. And that can have a very soothing effect. Another thing, you can start the day calming your system. So all you women who, if you put any type of eye cream on, it's a perfect time to slow down and just give very gentle pressure, working around. And that will help to release the tension in your face and help you to calm down. So we've also can use movement itself. As I said, one of my favorite lessons is balancing flexors and extensors. But we can also use just simple movements. One is to reach for the sky. So the act of reaching upward, so you're really reaching. And if you start to follow and look up, there's scientific evidence that this movement itself helps to change the mood, to help you to improve the mood, to be a little happier, a little more joyful. There's a wonderful video of online. If you look up prairie dogs, and I think prairie dogs and trauma. You'll come up with a video, and I can't remember it exactly, so if you can't find it, I apologize. But there's this prairie dog that's coming under attack, and he gets out, he's out of his hole, and he wants to get into his hole, and he can't. Well, the creature that's after him gets into his hole, and the prairie dog buries him in his hole. So now the creature that was trying to get the prairie dog is buried in the hole. And at the end, the prairie dog, it's like he just made a touchdown. He stands on his hind legs and he goes, and it's hysterical. But how often do we do it when we're joyful? So by doing that, by imitating, we can fool our nervous systems to thinking that everything's okay. So you can try this little trick. Another thing that we can do, if you're standing, you can rise up onto the balls of your feet and then thud, drop really heavily into your heels. And this is a really nice way of getting the bones connected. And when your skeleton is really clearly put together, when you're really sensing your skeleton, it helps the musculature to rebalance, and you start to feel a little more present, you feel a little more powerful, and those feelings of anxiety and the symptoms of stress start to dissolve. If you're in a place and you can't do that, you can take a heel, and I'm just gonna take your heels one at a time and pound. So while we're doing this, take one foot and just pound into the floor. Just one foot, number of times, and you want to hit it really hard. You want thud, 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 and let go. And now feel the difference in how the side you've been working on feels in relation to the other side. You may have a different sensation, and then you can take time and do the same on the other side so you feel more balanced. And then if you want, you can do both at the same time. Okay, so now I'd like to take time to actually do a short lesson, if I may. And I don't know, Cynthia, are you going to invite people to be on, or should I just do it as is?
That's quite complicated, and since we didn't plan for it ahead of time.
Well, that's fine. They don't need to. I don't need to see anything. I'm just going to take a sip of water. So one of, as I said before, the vagus nerve is very close to the surface and the roof of the mouth. So using the tongue, it's also very close to the eyes. So we're going to do a lesson combining movements of the tongue and the eyes. So I invite you to find a place to sit comfortably. If you are driving, please do not try this. Please, not while driving, or
operating heavy equipment.
Operating
heavy equipment. Or fast, small equipment like sewing machines or.
Right, right. Make sure you're in a safe, quiet, comfortable place, and sit in so that you can really feel your sit bones. So a firm surface. For those of you who aren't used to doing Feldenkrais, we like to have a nice firm surface, and that just gives us a little more sensory input. If you're all cushy all the time, you really don't have a way of differentiating. So a firm surface helps you to differentiate a little more. So take a moment and feel your sit bones. I would suggest doing this with your eyes closed. If it is uncomfortable to have your eyes closed, then by all means, you're welcome to do it with your eyes open, but you may find that it's easier to attend with your eyes closed. And because we will be doing some movements with the eyes, a lot of times from a vestibular perspective, it's a lot easier for many people, but judge for yourself. So to begin, Bring the tip of your tongue to gently rest at the back of your top teeth. And softly, as softly as you can, if you were petting a puppy or a kitten or a flower, begin to stroke your tongue along the roof of your mouth toward the very top of your soft palate. And it's not important to reach there. It's only in the direction. So go only as far as is comfortable. And then reverse that. Slide your tongue along your palate back to its resting place at the back of your top teeth. You pause for a moment and then do that many times. And as you do that, you might begin to notice what happens with your breathing. And give yourself a moment to pause. So let go of the movement, just pause, refresh. And once again, bring the tip of your tongue to rest at the back of your top teeth. And begin to stroke your tongue in the direction, roof of mouth. And returning, staying in contact with your palate all the way back to the top teeth, pausing, repeating. And as you do that now, begin to notice, what are your eyes doing? What do your eyes do? As your tongue slides in the direction of the roof of your mouth, what do your eyes do? And what do they do as you return your tongue to its starting place at the back of your top teeth? And begin, as you slide your tongue in the direction of your top teeth, to let your eyes begin to look upward. So even if your eyes are closed, imagine that your eyes are looking upward in the direction of your forehead. And the tiniest movement is enough. If you feel you can't access that movement, it's okay to just imagine it. So you let your eyes drift upward in the direction of your forehead as your tongue slides toward the roof of your mouth. And as your tongue slides back to your teeth, let your eyes look downward in the direction of your chin. And give yourself a moment to pause. And once again, begin to let your tongue stroke from the place at the back of the top teeth in the direction of the roof of your mouth. And this time, as you're sliding your tongue toward the roof of your mouth, let your eyes look down in the direction of your chin, going just a little bit. Let the movements be light, let them be small and comfortable. Let pleasure and ease be your guides. And as you slide your tongue from the roof of your mouth back to its starting place at the back of your top teeth, let your eyes look upward in the direction of your forehead. So now your eyes are going up as your tongue comes forward. As the tongue goes toward the roof of the mouth, the eyes look down. Notice what happens to your breathing. And let that all go. And just bring your awareness back to yourself, to your breathing, to your contact with the surface you're sitting on. And see if maybe you don't feel just a little bit lighter, a little more relaxed.
That's really lovely.
Thank you.
Very lovely. Yeah, so I mean, you gave us a number of really fabulous, easy self-help things that we could incorporate into our day. And this one was a little longer. The other ones were a little bit shorter, which I love that kind of variety. I wonder if you feel like you might be ready here soon to take some questions, because we have a couple.
Please, yes.
Okay.
Nothing too technical, I hope. I don't have any real notes with me.
Oh, they're going to stump you. I know it.
I know. I'm having my, performance anxiety.
Yeah, so hold your earlobe in that little special place.
Right, there we go. Always feel like Carol Burnett when I do this.
I know, I do too, yeah. That's what all of us at this age and older at least would think of that, wouldn't we? So let me just see here. So we'll be getting ready for some Q&A, and someone who did not put in their name, I hope you're going to be able to go live, is asked about dissociative disorder. So let me see if I can find you and allow you to go live. Hold on here. Not sure I can since you're anonymous. I may just have to read your question. Yeah, it's okay. I'll read your question for us then. Since you worked with a psychologist who dealt with dissociative disorders, when you said type A might go to the gym and calmer people might meditate, what generally can people with dissociative disorders do? When it is so easy to vacate the body entirely, what is a good method to try to reconnect?
I think
really great question.
That is a really, really great question. And I really want to stay away from generalities because everybody is slightly different. Things that are grounding. So some of that heel tapping, getting into that, really sensing the bones really deeply. I would suggest Feldenkrais is wonderful, really working with someone one-on-one. I know it's not a thing that you would do immediately, but pressure. One of the things that can be really helpful, I very often work with balls. I have, there are expensive versions of them that last a lot longer, but there's a little, it's about 8-9 inches, very squishy. It's called a Gertie ball, Gertie. And you can roll those, put a lot of pressure. You really want to feel the body. So that I find is extremely helpful. Other than that, I hate to, everybody's different. So anything that you feel would really help to get you going. You want to feel the long bones, feel that pressure through them, so you get a real sense of connection. A lot of people like yoga. I know this is a Feldenkrais, but the sense of of control of the movements, and using your body in that way can be helpful. Those are a couple possibilities.
And just to clarify, I'm not familiar with the Gertie ball. Is it how did you describe the ball? Was it a?
It's a children's ball. If you go on, I go on Amazon and get them. They're about $10, and you blow them up. They're like a balloon, but they're stronger and they have a better texture. A balloon,
So it's got a softness to it. You couldn't easily hurt yourself on it.
Right. If you give me half a second, I'll grab one.
Okay.
And I'll be right back.
Okay, great.
My daughter has cerebral palsy, and I use this for her. So I use it as, gives really good sensory input. But anybody that has, a lot of things from ADD to children with developmental disabilities, sensory processing issues, you would go and really give a lot of pressure.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because I've seen people use hard balls, and cause significant bruising. And so when you say a lot of pressure, you mean a lot of pressure, but with something soft.
Very soft. And the beauty of these is that this comes out and you can make it really, really almost flat. You can have it just to whatever you need. So this is one of my favorite tools at my office. I use it with clients of all stripes, not just people that have anxiety or whatever. I should do a whole class on working with Gertie balls because they're just incredibly. I'm just going to do real quickly. This is something that can be really helpful. If you come up on the kind of between the breasts on the upper part of the sternum, and you press back, and then as you roll down just, a fraction of an inch, if you feel like you're pressing and you feel that kind of like your stomach or any pressure in your diaphragmatic area, you're doing too much, you're going to roll a little bit. What this does is kind of guides you into a very gentle flexion pattern, helps to release the diaphragm, helps you to breathe a little more deeply and freely, also gives you that sensory input.
Okay, great. And Tyler Wall, I'm going to make you live, so get ready for that to ask your question. Here it comes. You're going to be popping up here for us, and then I'll need to unmute you.
Hello.
Give me a second here to unmute you. Okay, great. Welcome, Tyler.
Cool. Hi, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
I was wondering about the earlobe. Is this for vagus nerve stimulation?
Yes.
Okay. Am I just on the earlobe itself, or am I behind it, like right
You
where the ear?
can, if you go behind the earlobe, right here in that little divot where the ear actually meets the side of your face, if you put your thumb in there and then your finger, but you can also, if you just do the earlobe, it's fun.
How about if I hum at the same time?
We'll give it a try. See what happens.
Yeah.
I love experimentation. So, I tell my clients, they go, well, what if this and what if this? And I'll go, well, try it.
Yeah.
So, give it a shot and see what happens. I think it'll probably be good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Julie, also a couple of people have asked about the prairie dog video. I wonder if you remember any of the details. I'm suspecting it might have been like when a prairie dog is burying a snake. So maybe, is that maybe
something
the theory,
like
something like that?
I think it is a snake. I'm not 100% sure. I had it on my old website and I don't have access to that. I will have to talk to my web person and see if I can find it. But I know if you try Googling, did somebody find it? I thought I saw something come up in chat. So if somebody did find it, if you would quickly.
I think they all said they couldn't find, there was just so many of them, yeah.
And it may no longer be available. Videos like that kind of come and go. Yeah. So I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
sorry about that.
And how would you spell the name of that ball again? Was it
Gertie, Gertie.
Okay, thank you very much. So just a couple of things to remind you about in terms of Julie. She has her beautiful book, Calm Your Nerves. We have a link for that on her page on the website. Arlene's also going to pop the link to it and into the chat box. But anytime you want to get to the links that the speakers are sharing with us, what you do is you go to www.feldenkrais.summit.com, you click on that particular speaker's name, and then there are links at the end of their bio. So those are very, very handy. Also, Julie has coming up a wonderful series on breathing through anxiety, an eight-week online series. It starts June 8th, and we will also put a comment out there for you for that, but also you should be able to find that on our main feldenkrais.summit.com page. Julie, do you want to say anything about that course?
I think it's very simple. What I'm going to do is focus on Feldenkrais breathing lessons. We'll have time, breathing lessons I tend to make a little bit shorter. It gets a little untenable, I think, when you have a long breathing lesson, and I want people to be able to continue with their day. So what we'll do is have time to kind of talk about how they maybe use some of the breathing principles. We'll have time to talk on either end a little bit, and there'll be a long lesson, probably anywhere from half an hour to 40-minute long breathing lessons. So those of you who are Feldenkrais breathing junkies, this is your big opportunity.
But you would not need to be a Feldenkrais person to really benefit from it, correct?
No, absolutely not. They are Feldenkrais lessons, but you do not have to be a practitioner. You don't even have to have ever done a Feldenkrais lesson before. So anybody's welcome.
Do you have time for a couple more questions, Julie?
I do. I'm happy to answer, sure.
Great. We're going to go to Jan here in a minute. Jan, here you come. I'll have to unmute you. Give me just a moment for that, please. Okay. Hi, Jan. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hey, Jan.
Hi. Yeah, so my question was about the reaching for the sky. And that's kind of, I think of that as part of pandiculation.
Yes.
Which is the full whole body natural stretch that we as humans seem to have forgotten how to do on a regular basis. So would you concur that that is part of that?
100%. And because pandiculation is hard to teach in the sense that, you know, I'm not seeing people, I'm cueing people. You know, yes, pandiculation is when you see your cat or dog stretch. It's a full body stretch. It comes from inside. It isn't an external reach, but it's like the whole body is organized to stretch. And you can do this if you start in the morning and you do this really like the whole body. Those of you on the call who are Feldenkrais practitioners, I call it the giant X lesson. Where you're reaching one limb and you're connecting. A lot of times if you're studying the five lines, you'll get those diagonals and you'll get the leg and the opposite arm going, and then you do all together and it becomes this full body extension contraction, and it's called pandiculation. Yes, thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
And we also have an announcement from Stefan, and I'm going to bring him up. We're going to see if I might have a chance of saying his last name correctly this time. I don't know. We're going to try it. So Stefan Wilcznig, am I getting closer?
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe the third or fourth or fifth or 26th time of the summit, I'll be on it.
Well, I'm going to hang out in a couple of more talks, I guess. Well, welcome everybody here from Malmö. I'm a cognitive scientist and a person interested in how to enable knowledge creation and learning in various modalities. And also I'm trained as a Feldenkrais practitioner. So thanks, Julie, for a great talk, and Cynthia for a beautiful summit. I have actually a twofold invitation for the participants here, and I suggested to Cynthia to somehow create an online environment to follow up the conversations and discussions that we've just seen here after this great talk. And I would like to invite you to a Facebook group, actually, and I'm going to put the link into the discussion as well, where people could follow up with the conversation that is happening here. And in the meanwhile, we have around 250 people joining the group there. The other invitation, I think, would be considering creating a little on-site group at your location at home to watch maybe one of the upcoming meetings together with a couple of friends, acquaintances, or clients, and enhance the online experience with some personal interaction as well. So that's the little advertisement at the very end, and I'm going to put the link here right away. It's facebook.com/groups/Feldenkrais Summit with a 1 at the end in one go, and you should be fine. Please answer the questions. There's 3 little questions at the intro, and I should immediately kind of approve you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Just to say a couple more things that people are asking questions about in terms of detail. The replays, there will be a 24-hour replay. For those of you who enrolled for free, which is about 5,500 of you that enrolled for free, and then you will have access to watch a 24-hour replay. Now, we had our first opportunity this morning to see how long it was going to take us to get a replay up, and it turns out much longer than we thought, because we have to wait longer than we thought for Zoom to get us the webinar to actually edit and then to load back up, and it's just taking much closer to 4 and 5 hours than it took to 2. So you'll have to be a little bit patient, and we're sorry we didn't really expect that long of a lag time. And but then from the time that we have it up, it will be available for 24 hours. That's for anyone who registered before the deadline. If you did not register before last night, you will not be able to access the 24-hour replays. Also, you can purchase an upgrade package if you should choose to do so, and there's all kinds of information that comes your ways via the emails around that. I think what I'd like to just do here is see, Julie, if there's anything you want to say as a little wrap-up statement. Something that you...
Well, I just am very overjoyed to have been part of this. I think this was so amazing, and kudos to you and Arlene, and I think Lavinia is also involved, and just for pulling this together, because I know if your hair wasn't white before, it would have been now. So it was, absolutely, and it looks beautiful, by the way. I've always admired your.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I have to say that just comes down through my family genes. I had nothing to do with it. The next part of my hair, however, is that it will just stand on end. That also comes down through the genes. So my day is coming when you all just keep me like this.
There you go.
It's a very Albert Einstein look.
There you go. Well, it was just a pleasure to participate. I'm happy, if people are interested in sponsoring a workshop. I do workshops. I can do, long, short-term, etc. Watch for things that I offer here in the Midwest. I haven't heard yet, but I know the conference is coming up. I'll be there, say hi to me. And thank you, everybody on the call, for participating, and everybody who listens in. I hope it's helpful. And I have lots more, so hope to catch up with you another time.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
So that is going to conclude this particular session of the Feldenkrais Awareness Summit. Please remember that we have sessions that stream at 8 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, Eastern Daylight Time. So you do have to convert that. We hope you join us for the next session. And then this recording, when it is up, will be accessible free for 24 hours. You can also purchase the entire series with unlimited access to each recording, along with an audio download capacity and a wonderful bonus Feldenkrais Awareness Through Movement lessons. Actually not one, it's from 6 or 7 different practitioners, and it's quite a lot of great material as well. On behalf of our sponsor, Future Life Now, this is Cynthia Allen, and thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you this evening perhaps. Who knows? Maybe you'll tune in again at that time, or maybe you'll be in bed. I'm not sure. Whoever's here, I'll be glad to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Cynthia. Bye-bye.